for watchers of HDFC and HDFC Bank, it was never a question of if, it was a question of when, the merger, right? But when did you actually come to a conclusion that this is happening?
So we kept evaluating it time and again. We looked at it in 2008-9 during the financial crisis. We looked at it in 2014, and 14 we really spent a lot of time looking at it. But at that time, the regulatory cost of a merger was just prohibitive. It just didn't make sense. Then COVID happened, 2020, and then for 2 years, everything was forgotten. In 2022, when we re-evaluated it, we found that many of the problems that were associated, the regulatory costs associated with the merger prior to 2014, had to a great extent got addressed. CRR, SLR requirement had been reduced. Priority sector, there were other methods of getting to the priority sector requirement. Liquidity ratios had been applicable to housing finance companies. So we carried the liquidity that is required, in a merged entities. All the boxes sort of got a tick. And that's when we said, this is the time, and let's just go ahead and announce it.
Did it all happen here at HDFC House?
It did happen here. It happened here, this place.
Okay. How did you manage to keep it a secret? It was such a well-kept secret.
It was.
The timing.
It was. No, not the timing. I think the whole fact that it was happening was a secret. That it would happen someday could be 20 years later.
Yeah.
No one, even in the wildest dream envisaged that in April 2022 we would announce. So we kept it a secret. We really genuinely worked in closed doors, kept a very limited number of people involved, very few external consultants, very, very few, very limited, excepting for lawyers who are obviously a must, hardly any other external consultant. Valuers, of course, but that was still the last 2 or 3 days. And touch wood, really touch wood, it didn't leak. There was not even a murmur. There was not even a
secret.
There was not even a WhatsApp saying, is it happening? Nothing.
So what's the focus area now of the merged entity? I mean, you're a behemoth in all right.
So, as HDFC Limited, the structure was always a little odd in the sense that HDFC did housing loans, HDFC Bank did every single product other than housing loans. So therefore, it just didn't gel too well. HDFC Bank customers would say, we want housing loans. Then they would sell HDFC home loan to their customer. Then we entered into some kind of an agreement way back in 2003, 20 years ago, saying that HDFC Bank would source loans for us. We would do the credit appraisal, the legal checks, the technical checks. We would decide whether to lend money to a particular customer or not. If we lent money, the bank would have a right to buy back a certain percentage of those loans. We would continue to service those loans. So it was a complicated arrangement which every single year needed shareholder approval. So we said, whilst this arrangement can continue for a few years, if in the long term a merged entity makes the whole thing simpler and stronger. Because with a bank you have access to CASA deposits, current accounts, savings accounts, and your regulatory cost is really a one-time cost on the back book. On the new book, there is never a problem in meeting the regulatory costs. So touch wood all makes sense.
Sure, but there ought to be some teething troubles or some things that you got to hit first for the combined entity.
So there are the potential for growth is phenomenal. Sure. To my mind, the asset growth opportunities in India are just unbelievably strong. And I'm not talking only mortgages. I'm talking of just about every single financial service product you can imagine. Because the penetration levels of every financial service product in India is lower than most parts of the world. So there is phenomenal growth opportunity. Also, we have a young population. 2/3 of our population is below 35 years. People want to do things. People want to borrow money. People want to buy things. Aspiration levels have really risen over time. So all this creates so much of opportunity for growth. And as far as mortgages are concerned, that I can tell you with complete confidence that the growth is not there for 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. To my mind, it is there for several decades.